Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only, Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker. I am here with my co-host, Patricia Kirkman. PK, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I am just absolutely fantastic. I keep losing weight every day with this heat that we're in. I have my own special sauna. I love it. So good.
Oh, my goodness. And we've had a lot of heat here. It's been close to 100. The humidity, I've never seen this here in New England. It's strange. Day after day of hot temperatures and thunderstorms in the afternoon and evening, and the humidity is just through the roof. It's incredible. I think in all the years we've been here up in the hill towns, and, you know, I think we've used the air conditioning maybe twice. But this summer, we have used it just daily for the last 10 days. We can't stop using it because then you can't breathe. It's been that bad.
I can't imagine having air conditioning and not needing to use it.
No, we are used to
show
but
off.
now it's starting to feel a little bit like, and I got to say.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, Miss PK, what's going on with the numbers? It seems like time's moving so fast, making my head spin. What's going on with the numbers? What do we have to look for?
Well, firstly, please, everybody, remember we're in retrograde until the 19th. And anything to do with communication can will get messed up, screwed up, turned around, twisted upside down, and dangling off the trees. It's been horrible. Everyone I have talked to that's going through things, it's been one thing after another, and nothing seems to stay in focus. Right now, today, we happen to be in a 9 Universal Day, so it's about ending some things and wrapping some things up and trying to get things to work properly. Well, we already found that out, just trying to go on the air. One thing after the other kept dropping out, and that's kind of what's been happening across the board. It doesn't matter whether it's communication with being on or off the air. It has to do with letters, numbers being transposed, and things are going zonkers. People just aren't feeling comfortable or confident in anything happening around them. And for God's sakes, if you have to sign anything that deals with your finances or whatever, my gosh, hold off if you can, but double check, triple check it, whatever, before you put your pen to paper, because nothing seems to be going well. Kind of one of those
that is
damned
really
if you do, damned if you
up.
don't days. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I wish I could say
say
something nice, but I can't.
I know. Well, we did have a heck of a time, both of us, getting on the air tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Skype wouldn't let me in. It was asking for a password, telling me it was wrong, same password I've used over and over again. And you got kicked off the board once, so it's
twice.
It is twice. Yeah, see, look at that.
It's just
so it is
kind
of nuts. It's nuts. But
not
anyways, at least we made it.
It is nuts.
It is nuts.
We're going to
hold on.
Pretend none of this is going to happen anymore, right?
I know, God. Oh, it's been crazy, and I can't wait till the 19th and have this all behind us. I really can't wait.
Just take a look at what's happening in the news and what's happening around, just in general, whether it's locally or internationally or nationally. Nothing is going well. Everybody's putting their foot in their mouths in one form or another, and the powers that be, God love him. I wish he would get a paintbrush stuck in his mouth and leave the White House alone for a while. But it's just uncomfortable watching people do uncomfortable, crazy things.
And the weather continues to be very dangerous. I mean, you see all this flash flooding and all of this, the forest fires in California. I mean, it's really telling, isn't it? About some people say it's the end of days. Yeah, it is.
It's coast to coast. It doesn't matter what starts out in one area quickly turns around and becomes something else. I mean, we've got the water on the East Coast, we've got the fire on the West Coast, and in between we've got the heat.
Yes.
And they say there's no hell. I think we've got it right here, right now.
We may be living it. Yes, I think we might. How about it, huh? It's quite possible. It is. Well, I just want to encourage everybody to pay a visit to PK's website, patriciakirkman.com, because it's a good time, believe me, to check into your own numbers. Let's see what's going on for you in the year coming up, and the person you want to talk to about that is Miss PK. So you can find her at patriciakirkman.com, and you can also find her on our website, supernaturalgirls.com. And if you're interested in doing any dream work, this is a great time to do it, because the veil between waking reality and dream reality is also very thin. So it's not just the veil between the living and the dead, it is the veil between waking and sleeping. It is very thin. It's a great time to do that work.
It's fabulous. Just think in terms of this. Prop up your pillow and give you a call.
Yes, exactly. And I can help you guys, whoever's interested, set up your own dream workshops, your own dream groups, or just do one-on-one and learn your own dream symbology. Now, last week, you had a great idea, PK, which was to put up a prayer protection for people to use right before they go to sleep, because we were discussing last week with our guest that there were some intrusions into our night space. So we prayer and we put it on our Facebook page. So be sure and go there. It's a very short prayer. It's easy to write it down and say it every night before you go to sleep, just for added protection and safety. So take a look. It's there along with some fabulous stories. And also with our guest has written a terrific book called Otherworldly Encounters. Oh,
that it is.
Book?
It's a great book. I was teasing him why all the good stuff's on the East Coast.
I know. Hey, because we are so blessed over here on the East Coast with metaphysical things. Paranormal events love us here. But what's great about the book, too, is that Nomar has mentioned a number of YouTube videos about these sightings that have taken place in Maine. And so I posted those on our Facebook page so people could take a look at a few of them, and you can do that even while you're listening to the show, and you'll see some of what we're going to be talking about tonight with Nomar. He's put together a great compendium of stories, and we can't wait to get him on the air. But before we do, there is a story that I found today on Mysterious Universe. It's written by Nick Redfern, and a 19th century vampire on the loose. Wow. So this is a cemetery in Guadalajara, Mexico. And they are saying that in the latter part of the 19th century, this is what Nick researched here, one particularly restless character roamed the cemetery, something which led to horror and even death. And matters began when the blood-drained body of a woman was found late at night on a nearby street. Her body was found in an alleyway with nothing less than a savage wound to the neck, specifically to the jugular vein. Now, that's kind of spooky right there. I mean, worse than spooky. But then days later, they found another body, and this time on the fringes of the cemetery itself. This one, however, had been dug up from the grave in which it had been buried just days earlier. And the dangerous monster, which was responsible, had dug deep into the grave and wrenched the lid of the coffin off. Yet again, there was the classic calling card of a vampire. 2 bites to the neck. Across the following week, several children were killed, all in the very same fashion. So I guess the townspeople they decided that they had to come after this vampire. So you've got to go to our Facebook page and read this story because they actually found it, apparently. They found this creature prowling around the graves and seeking out fresh corpses, and a gang of men surrounded it. They claimed it was a startling, staring abomination, and it took more than a few men to force him to the ground. And as it violently fought and struggled to make an escape, they hammered a wooden stake into its heart, and that was the end of that vampire. So it's quite a story. We've heard a lot about vampires in Europe. This is the first time I've heard about one in Mexico. Fascinating story from Nick. So, again, you can read about it on our Facebook page, Supernatural Girls with a Z. Be sure to give us a like and a follow. And sign up for our newsletter, The Fringe Files, which is on our website, and we'll send it out every week if we can. We're doing our best to be more regular about it and keep you posted on all the latest and greatest of what we're doing. So tonight, let me tell you a little bit about this guest we have. He is a paranormal researcher, and he lives in...
You're dropping off, Patricia. I didn't hear what you were talking about.
Oh, well, that's not good when you're on the radio and you can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. I just wanted you to know we're talking for nothing.
Thank you, because the gremlins are at it again, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
So in this book, Nomar Slavic has sharing shocking evidence that is truly out of this world. He is a ufologist and a paranormal researcher and a member of Paranormal Research in Maine, and he lives in Bangor, Maine. So he's joining us right now. He's going to tell us all the details of these great stories in his new book, which is called Otherworldly Encounters, Evidence of UFO Sightings and Abductions. Nomar, welcome to the show.
Wow, guys. Supernatural Girls. Thanks so much for having me. This is awesome.
It's our pleasure. Gosh.
Definitely.
Well, where do we start? I mean, first, let's start with you. How did you get involved in all this stuff?
Well, that actually goes back 35, 36 years, like 82, 83, I think. And I was 4 or 5 years old, and I had a sighting in Maine, in Fort Kent. And Fort Kent is at the tip of Maine. You can literally throw a rock and hit Canada. And I used to get my haircuts in Canada as a child, actually. But anyway, I was sound asleep one night, and a clap of thunder woke me up. And I started hearing the taps of rain on the window, and then I saw some flashing lights, and I was like, ooh, a thunder and lightning storm. So I sat up in bed, watched it through my window, and then after like a moment or two, a really thick bolt of lightning got stuck in a cloud. That's the only way I can describe it. And the type of lightning bolt I'm talking about is like the Shazam logo or like the charging indicator on your smartphone. Or if I would ask you to draw a lightning bolt, you'd draw that thick, jagged yellow line, And it was in a cloud. And there were, there was electricity coming off of it, and there were booming sounds. And then eventually I just drifted off to sleep. I don't really remember what happened after that. So I wake up in the morning, go to the bathroom. As I'm walking back towards my room, I can see out my bedroom windows, and the lightning bolt was still there. Well, even at that age, I knew that lightning bolts, you're only supposed to see them just for a second or, less than a second. So I'm like, that's odd. I'm going to go get my dad. So I get my dad. We go upstairs so I can show him, and it's gone. And so I must have been pretty hyperactive at that point, trying to explain what I saw. And all he could really do is just kind of pat my head and be like, yeah. But since I was really kind of going on about it, he did tell me that it had not rained the night before. And that really startled me, even at that young age. And I kind of became frightened about the experience because I didn't know what it was. It was so unknown. And then a couple weeks later, my parents dragged me and my sister out of bed to go view the Northern Lights. It's the only time in my life I've ever seen them. And it was just gorgeous. And those two experiences taught me at a really young age that the world is friggin' mysterious and fascinating. And that was really the start of being interested in all things strange. So as time went on, I got older, double digits. I'm a teenager, and I'm checking out all the UFO books at the library, the local library. Well, they only had like 3 or 4, but I took them out all the time as long as I could, and I read them, and I kept reading them. I didn't understand everything. I don't know if you remember some of the older UFO books, but they're not, very kid-friendly, to understand.
No,
but
not at all.
I enjoyed some of the stories, and I was fascinated with some of the pictures that were in there. And as time grew on, the fear went away, and it grew into fascination. However, I was thinking, if I was scared, maybe there's other people that are scared, and maybe I can help them turn it into fascination like it has with me. So that kind of started my journey on like talking to other people, which turned into interviewing people, which turned into collecting stories. And Maine has a vast history of hauntings, and there's hundreds of books about ghosts in Maine. And there's some books that have some UFO stories in them from Maine, but there was no book dedicated to UFOs in Maine. And I figured maybe about 10 years ago that, hey, I'm going to write that book. So I did. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I eventually got it done, and somebody was dumb enough to put it out.
You.
And it's been going since then.
That's terrific. Well, let me ask you, too, when you said you had that experience as a child, years later, did you ever think to have hypnosis or something like that to try to retrieve any memory of that night?
Never thought of doing it. I have mixed emotions or mixed opinions on hypnosis. I would consider myself an open-minded skeptic, and I'll explain that a little bit. I talk to lots of people, and what's rare is when I don't believe somebody. That's like 10% of the time, okay? So it's actually rare to come across somebody that I think is lying. The majority of what I come across is like another 70% of the people I talk to, I'd say that I believe that they believe it. So that doesn't mean they're lying, and it doesn't mean that I 100% believe it, because it could be something else. And then there's about 20% of the people that I talk to where I'm like, whoa, yep, that's extraterrestrial. That's crazy. So when it comes to hypnosis, I kind of have a similar aesthetic with it. I'm not sure, because people are so malleable, and our memories are so malleable and easy to replace or to forget. And so I don't know how effective it is. I've never sat in a hypnosis session. I've never talked to a hypnosis expert. So, I could be barking up the wrong tree, but I guess I would say I'm apprehensive, which is why I haven't really approached it.
Understood. It's a good thing to be a little cautious, I think, about if you're going to do something like that. You have to be very confident in the person you're working with, that they're not basically shading this in any way, shape, or form. I've only known one person that didn't undergo hypnosis, but she went under sodium amytal, which is truth serum, where her entire UFO experience came out. That's the only person I've ever known. Yeah, that's interesting. And it was done by a psychiatrist. Right. Wow. And that's something, a psychiatrist can administer that medication, and then, whatever's there will come out. The problem with sodium amytal, as I understand it, is difficult to get one thing to come out. It's like everything comes out.
Gotcha.
So I guess you have to have a lot of time.
Maybe if you don't mind, you can email me or Facebook DM me, like the name of where I could look that up if it's something that is out there.
It's nothing that's really out there. I have, I think, one story I wrote about it years and years and years ago, but I will look for that and see if I can send it to you. But yes, that is one person who underwent that. So there's no disputing the experience because it was not done with hypnosis. And it's interesting. I mean, I think it gave her story a lot of credence, and it's interesting that there are very few, if any, other abductees that have had that sodium amytal as a way to bring the truth out. But her whole experience came out under that medication. So anyways, but just a little sidebar there. So you have heard from a lot of people. Let's start with some of your favorite encounters and stories. And we're not just talking about UFOs and abductions here, because we're also talking about monsters and men in black and things like that. So what are your favorites and what you've written about, and also maybe what's not in the book, but what you've known about?
Yeah. Well, let's start a little bit about what's not in the book. We can cover that quickly. Then I can get into a couple stories.
Yeah.
So, about a month and a half ago, I spoke to a new dogman witness from Maine.
Oh.
And there's only been a few encounters that have been reported. Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And there's only been a few encounters reported from Maine, and I wrote about one of them briefly in the book, and it was actually covered on a sci-fi television show called Paranormal Witness. So that's kind of been out there for a little while now. But this other guy I tracked down from one of the dogmen reporting sites. I think it's DFRO, similar to BFRO, but it's the Dogman Federation reporting thing. And there was a report from Eustis, Maine, about this gentleman. This happened in, I believe, the summer of 94, 95. He's not exactly sure which summer. And his son at the time was about 3 years old. And they had gone out camping, so they're in an RV. And the son is outside playing, just playing on the ground. And mom's inside, getting some food ready. And dad is at the window of the RV or at the door of the RV watching the kid, make sure everything's cool. And he notices off by the tree line that there's something weird there. So he's studying it, and he says it's about a telephone pole's length away. And he says that it looks like a humanoid wolf that's crouched, so we're talking, he's essentially telling me it's like a werewolf or a dogman, and he was aware of the term dogman at the time because he did report it to the site, so he called it a dogman, but at the time of the sighting, he didn't know what to call it. So he said it was crouched, and in a crouched position, it was probably about 4.5 feet tall or so. So he imagined when it stood, because he could see the legs crouched, that it would probably be 7-8 feet tall. So,
oh my God.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and he said the head was massive. It was a really big head. And so he sees that this creature is watching his son, and just very silently, motionless, watching his son. So he immediately freaks out once he kind of puts everything together, because this all happened in the course of like 10 seconds. He goes outside, grabs the kid, brings him inside the RV. They close the doors, make sure all the windows are closed, and after a few moments, he looks outside and it's gone. So he said that a few weeks later there was another family that was camping up there, blah, 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 and they heard a report of a hunter shooting something really weird, and that the Maine Inland and Fisheries Department retrieved it to try to identify it. And nobody had ever heard anything about the results. So I emailed them, explained in vague terms the story, because I don't want them to think I'm insane. But I explained in vague terms, what happened and if there had been any findings. And I've yet to hear back from them. So I guess more to come on that.
Yes, well, good for you for being very persistent to try to get to the bottom of this, because I've heard this before, and I know, PK, you have too, that they cover this stuff up. And so we never do get to hear that, in fact, there are these creatures wandering around. And it's really interesting to me that this dogman was focused on his son, because it reminds me of another story that was reported in the 1800s. And I don't know if you've heard this one, Nomar, but PK and I have heard this a couple of times, and I know David Paulides has talked about it in his book, one of his books also.
I must know if Paulides is involved.
Okay, well then it was the story of the logging operation when, this is back in the late 1800s, they were using a horse and a cart, and the little girl, the daughter of the man that owned the business, was having a blast. He would put her in the cart. The horses would bring her down. She'd run back up the hill. Have you heard this one? And
it sounds familiar.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly finish it up. But basically, one time he went to find her to put her back in the cart so she could go back down the hill, and she was nowhere to be found. So he was in a panic. He's searching for her, can't find her. 2 hunters come upon him, and he tells them, my daughter's missing. They all start searching together, and the hunters go 5 miles out, and they see something, big, hulking form, and they call out to the little girl, and all of a sudden this thing just jumps up, and it was a dog-faced thing on two legs, and it ran, jumped across the river, ran down the river. They couldn't believe what they were watching. But they went back to the bushes where he came from, and there was the little girl, thank God, unharmed. And they questioned her. The father was like, why didn't you answer us when we called to you? And she said, he wouldn't let me. And
really?
Then, yes. And then the father said, who are you talking about? And she said, the dog man. And they also asked her, the father said, where's your hat? I guess she had a special hat she was wearing. She said, he ate it.
Oh, my God.
And
the
so,
dog ate her hat.
But he ate her hat. But but again, what's so interesting to me is you bring in a correlation here, which is that the dog man was focused on this man's son in the story that you just reported. So there is some fascination with children with the dogman, and that's an interesting thing that you bring to light here, Nomar. Very interesting. So that's the story from the 1800s. Anyways.
And to keep on the theme with the 1800s, and it happens to be one of my favorite stories, I have a report of a potential UFO and entity from 1806.
Wow.
And, in the book, yeah. And it involves a gentleman by the name of Reverend Abraham Cummings. And he might really be the first ever paranormal investigator in the United States. I can't verify that in any way. I haven't done that to research, but that certainly goes back quite a ways, And Cummings, he was a really smart dude, highly educated, and he had an interest in understanding the paranormal phenomena. And during this time, he was actually investigating a case in the town of Sullivan, Maine, and it was about a ghost of a woman named Nellie Butler. And Nellie Butler, apparently, most of the town either saw or heard her. So there were lots of witnesses to this Nellie Butler spirit of some sort. So one night, Cummings is just casually walking about town, and two guys came up to him saying they just had an encounter in a nearby field. And they said that they saw this really odd glowing light hovering over the field. Well, while I'm reading the story, I got the red flags going off, like, whoa, hovering light in a field? That sounds extraterrestrial. All right, let me keep checking this out. So Cummings went to the field, and he actually saw what the men did, and he actually described it as a, quote, white rock, and it was actually landed or on the field. While he's watching it on the field, it ascends. It hovers in the air for a little bit, and while it's hovering, a small entity is observed coming out, and it floats down. He said he spoke telepathically with it and actually assumed, according to his writings anyways, he assumed that it was Nellie Butler. But he was confused on why the entity was so small. Well, now, more red flags are going off. Small entity, ascended light. Is that a gray alien? I don't know. And just as he thought...
Sounds like
it. Right? So just as he had the thought that, geez, why is Nellie Butler so small, the entity shape-shifted to a larger size and appeared female to him. Almost, trying to show him, like, oh, this is the form that you were expecting. And it actually reminds me of the movie Contact at the end when Jodie Foster is confronted with the alien and it comes to her in the form of her father, something recognizable. So I thought that was an interesting correlation. But anyway.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so they talked briefly, telepathically, and then all of a sudden he found himself inside his home, not knowing how he got there. Again, red flags. That sounds like an abduction scenario. Missing time.
Sure does.
Being in another place and not knowing how they got there. He goes back outside, and the rock and the entity were gone. And my conclusion, after reading that, which was in his own book, was that it very much sounds like a UFO abduction type scenario, So, and it sounds like you guys might agree.
Absolutely. It has all the earmarks of something like that. And how brave of him to be an investigator and report on these things back then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry, he also used the term specter. That was like the term he was using the whole time. So it's just interesting that at that time, he had nothing to compare it to, so it might have looked very odd to him. But the only term he could use was specter. So, maybe perhaps all these years, people reading his work was just reading to them another ghost story. But you get another perspective on it and be like, oh, that kind of more sounds like extraterrestrial to me,
Mm-hmm. I was noticing when I was reading the book something about the Egyptian description of the gods.
Yes. I don't have the book in front of me to read that quote, but yes, he said that there was something on her head, and the way he described it sounded very, Egyptian or Anunnaki or something like that. And that might be the ancient alien nut in me because it's a guilty pleasure, but that too raised some red flags.
It's surprising how many times these things overlay one another, coming from different times. Mm-hmm. That's what I found fascinating when you were talking about the Egyptian aspect or the Kachinas. And I'm thinking, This is really neat.
Yeah, it does fit together like a puzzle.
Mm-hmm. The book is fascinating.
It does.
Absolutely
I
fascinating.
appreciate that, guys. There's, it's kind of interesting where there's some stories in there that have a paranormal aspect to them, meaning like people experienced paranormal-like activity after a sighting, sometimes concurrent with a sighting, and that's interesting, and that begs the question, like, is all of this connected somehow, and
yes,
lots of Fortean researchers that kind of are in that same thought process,
Well, it's because of people like you that are basically reporting on all of these stories. It does provide us with more pieces to the puzzle, and we're going to just take a very short commercial break and have the rest of this incredible discussion with you, Nomar. This is great stuff, and we're so glad to have you with us tonight. So stay tuned, everybody. You are listening to Supernatural Girls Radio, and we will be right back.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the Source. With Cosmic Fusion, the Source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.KOSMICfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Astridian is a family of cosmetic products with 98% pure ionized minerals. We combine our science with a blend of essential oils to nourish and take care of your skin's health. How does it work? All Astridian products contain the proprietary redox technology, having the capability of simulating an ionic zinc-copper superoxide dismutase effect. This free radical scavenger currently in your body has been diminished by toxins and the daily stresses of life. It is a perfectly balanced mineral complex that all $200 an hour dermatologists, their professors, and ancient history have proven. Redox technology is a process of reducing the skin's oxidation by transferring electrons from a radical state to a stress-free normal condition. Oxidative stress is a form of cellular aging, and as science has proven, a precursor to disease. The free radical theory of aging states that organisms age because cells accumulate free radical damage over time. Damaged cells are not beautiful, but healthy cells are. The Astridium family is presented in 4 different uses that cover unique benefits to your body. They are the Essential Anti-Aging Series, the Multivitamin Series, Sports Series, and Professional Series. Regain your youth with the power of Astridian. Visit www.astridian.com and inquire. Use the code SUPERNATURAL and receive a 10% discount on your first purchase. Astridian, the beauty of being healthy.
Welcome back, everyone, to Supernatural Girls Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker. I'm here with my co-host, PK, all the way from Tucson, and our great guest tonight. This is such a terrific conversation we are having with Nomar Slevik. He's the author of a terrific new book. It is called Otherworldly Encounters, Evidence of UFO Sightings and Abductions, and actually so much more. We're talking about Dogman and werewolves, lots of other things, too, tonight. So if you want to call in and ask a question, you can do that at 563-999-3539. Again, the call-in number is 563-999-3539. So, Nomar, where do we go from here? There's so many great stories to talk about tonight.
One of my favorite stories of just all time is the Mothman of Point Pleasant. And in doing research for this book, which happened a bunch of different ways, it was just looking up media reports and trying to find witness names. It was doing searches in Google by just typing in, certain words. Witnesses came to me directly. I also worked with the state director from Maine of MUFON. Her name's Valerie Schultz. But this one in particular, I just decided to give it a go, and I typed into Google Mothman in Maine to see if I could find anything. Mm-hmm. And I kept finding like a headline, Man Encounters Mothman-like Creature in Camden, Maine. And I just kept finding that. I'm like, why can't I find more to this story? This is ridiculous. And then a witness would contact me. I'd go interview them, and I'd forget about it, and then I'd go back to it. That's all I could keep finding. So I reached out to a fellow author and researcher for some assistance. Her name's Michelle Solier, and she's currently writing a book about Bigfoot in Maine, where she worked with Lauren Coleman a little bit. And she's also the author of Strange Maine. And she was actually able to track down a witness name for me. After a while, the witness spoke to me, and he was willing to share his encounter, but he wanted to remain anonymous. And I did write that in the book, that he'd like to remain anonymous. So I gave him the pseudonym Robert Osborne. And I found him on Facebook originally, and it was after numerous attempts of sending people an odd message that has the same name of him, so that was a bit awkward. But I finally found him, and I was happy that he was willing to share it. So this started in 2001, and he was 17 at the time, and it's actually almost 35 years to the month of the original Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant in 1966. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. That is.
Yeah. But anyways, this witness, he was walking down Washington Street towards his apartment. Washington Street starts right in the center of downtown Camden, and Camden is a gorgeous little coastal town, like right out of a Stephen King book, minus the horror. But it's a great little town. And as he walked, he began hearing like this chirping, squeaking sound, kind of like a mouse, but really loud. So he wasn't sure if he was going to step on this large creature on the ground, so he's looking down, and he sees a shadow go by the pavement where he's looking down. Obviously, that's being cast by something above him, so he looks up, and he described seeing a 4.5 foot long body, torso-type humanoid thing with a massive wingspan. This thing flew over him and up past his apartment and down to a marshy area behind his apartment. When it flew up past his apartment, he was able to get a measurement of the wings. And the reason he was able to do that is because it measured from one side of the house to the other. And at that point, it was about 25 feet. I went on site. It is about 25 feet. So you're talking a wingspan of like a Cessna plane. Like, that's huge.
It is huge.
Yeah. So this obviously startled him, and he told his friends and family about it. And I wouldn't say they really dismissed him, but they're like, well, you must be mistaken, because that's insane. And maybe it was a turkey vulture or a sandhill crane, and those can both be found in the state of Maine, you know. But he was like, no. Like, I know what I saw. This was different. So then reoccurring dreams started. And he started having these dreams where he would be in that same spot where he saw the creature. And this time when he looked up, he would see a UFO the size of a house above him. And it would roar, come to life, and then take off. And he kept having this dream. And in our discussion, you know, as researchers do, I'm like, well, you know, do you think that's a dream or do you think that's a memory? And he's like, funny you should bring that up. I tell people it's a dream, but it does feel like a memory. So I thought that was interesting.
Wow.
He doesn't really have any other memories of that, you know, any other UFO, abduction scenarios or anything like that. It's really the only thing he remembers. But I thought that was interesting. So a few months later, he's on Washington Street again. He's walking home, and he sees the creature again. But this time it was a lot farther away, probably like 300 yards away. And at that distance, he thought, like, wow, that really could be a turkey vulture or something. Maybe I am an idiot, and it's nothing. Yeah. So he kind of dismissed it after that. So, you know, he turns 18, he graduates high school, and he enrolls into college. And then the following summer, he comes home to visit his parents, you know, and he stays the summer in Camden and gets a job and all that good stuff. And one day off, he's riding around town with his buddy. They're just kind of, you know, checking things out. It's right in the middle of the day. And while they're driving, this thing splats against his windshield. And he described it as, like this papier-mâché thing with translucent wings. And the wings, he thought, looked exactly like the wings from the first larger creature that he saw. And he was thinking maybe this was a smaller version of it, a juvenile, maybe perhaps like
a baby,
something related to it. Yeah,
a baby Mothman.
Yeah. So him and his buddy are just mortified, and the car comes to a stop. They think it's dead because it's not moving. And then all of a sudden, when the car stops, it just like flutters and takes off.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and he said they both had this really ominous, macabre feeling during the whole thing. Now, that could just be attributed to something really strange, you know, hitting your windshield. Of course, we all feel that way. But he said it kind of lingered a little bit. It seemed a little bit more than that. So, again, I thought that was interesting. Now,
that's a fascinating story. Yeah.
Yeah. This I couldn't believe the story as it unfolded, you know. So now we fast forward to another summer. This is the following summer, and he has a girlfriend now, and they're both in Camden for the summer working and all that good stuff. And they're out sky watching one night, just chilling, doing their thing, and the witness starts hearing the chirping and squeaking again, and he knew exactly what it was, and it was coming from that marshy area. So he, you know, his senses were on alert. The girlfriend just thought it was just something natural from Maine, you know, because she's not from the area. I was like, oh, that's probably a bat or a deer. I don't know what the hell makes noises up here.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, and he didn't tell her about it at the time. He was just cautious and kept it to himself. Well, he ended up marrying that girl, and they moved to southern Maine, about 2 hours south. And he said reoccurring dreams started again last year. They moved into a new house, and he would have this dream where he would wake up, go to the bathroom, and look out the bathroom window. When he looks out the bathroom window, he can see a silver disc UFO hovering just above the tree line, and then he wakes up. So I asked him again, you know, if it felt more like a dream or a memory, blah, 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 and he said, well, this time it really does feel like a dream. I can't describe it any other way other than that. However, the dreams have stopped at this point, and I really didn't think about it. I got a new job, we got a new place, so I just didn't really pay attention to it. But while I was thinking about the story, because we were in contact for the course of over like 2 weeks or so, it came back to him. He remembered it, so he wanted to share it as another piece to the puzzle, potentially, So that's pretty much his story in a nutshell. So I decided to go to Camden last summer to check it out for myself. He gave me the address of the apartment building, so I went there. Sure enough, the house is about 27 feet wide, so the wings, from what he described, that matches up. And there is a marshy area behind his apartment building, and it's about a quarter mile away. And so I went behind his little neighborhood, and it turns out there's a little dirt road where you can go down, and there's some parking in there. I don't know if it's a makeshift thing for pheasant hunting or what, what hunters do up here. But there's an area to drive down and kind of park. It's not really a parking area. It's just, flat open field really for a little bit, and then it's just all woods. So I first went and told the police what I was doing because, I didn't want them happening upon me and asking me to leave or think I'm doing anything wrong. I always like to let people know what I'm doing when I get to an area. And they were
smart.
Totally cool. They're like, Mothman, that's weird. All right, cool, man, have fun. So I was like, all right, I got the police.
Yeah.
And I go over there, and there's so much activity. But when I say activity, there's a lot of animal activity. So I'm hearing large crunching in the woods and all that stuff, and pretty much it had to be deer. There's so much deer in Maine. So I chalked that up to deer. I didn't see any, but I had to chalk it up to that. I conducted EVP sessions. I used a night vision camera, all that stuff. Couldn't catch anything. So I probably wrapped it up maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I went back to my hotel. Well, I went to Camden with my family. So the next night, we were there for one more night. So the next night, I brought my son with me. At the time, he was 11, and so he's munching on Sour Patch Kids. I'm telling him about the Mothman Prophecies movie. We watched the trailer, and now he's all super psyched to go do this. So we're sitting in the car, and we're doing our thing, and we're watching for stuff. Let him use the camera, all that good stuff, and then we decide to drive all the way up Washington Street. Washington Street goes on for miles past downtown Camden, and it actually ends in the town of Hope, Maine. So we went all the way to the town line of Hope, but while we were driving up there, we were cautiously driving. It's probably 11 o'clock at night, and we're just, going the speed limit. But all of a sudden, this beast comes racing across the road in front of us. He freaks out and screams. I put my arm on him as to prevent him from being killed or something. I don't know why I did it. And we're both like, and I hit the brakes, and it turned out that it was just a large deer that had crossed the road. But it certainly got our adrenaline going. So
I bet so.
He's like, let's go back. So we go back to the marshy area, and probably 4, 5, 6 times, he's like, I see red eyes. I see red eyes. And I wasn't sure if he was being influenced by the Mothman Prophecies trailer, where they focus on the red eyes and all that stuff.
Yes, right.
And every time I looked, I didn't see anything, And then the last time he points it out, I saw it for myself. And
my gosh.
It appeared to be maybe, up in the trees a little bit, or it was really tall. And there were just these red eyes staring back at us. We only saw them for a second, and then they kind of blinked out. So I don't know what to make of it. We didn't see anything else. We took a bunch of pictures at the moment, but nothing came out very good. It's all very pixelated, and you certainly don't see any red. And honestly, we don't know Camden 100% well, so maybe there's another road somewhere over where we saw that, and we were seeing brake lights potentially. So I don't know what to make of it, but we both saw it, and I thought that was interesting.
That is so cool. Now, because you did have a chance to speak at length with this witness, and the story of Mothman it was in Virginia, right? West Virginia?
Yeah, West Virginia.
Where did that happen usually? Yes, okay, so West Virginia. Now, what do you think? Is there a connection between UFOs and Mothman? I mean, this is what this witness was saying, not in so many words. He wasn't saying there was a connection, but it seems like there is one.
I know, and I really do think there was some sort of connection now. Is the Mothman a thing that, is it from that, the UFOs that people were seeing, or was the Mothman responsible for opening some sort of portal, or was Point Pleasant, West Virginia, did a fault line open up, and all these things, started happening. Like, I really don't know what to make of it. There just seems to be some sort of connection. I think it's conjecture, but I think, so it seems like it, but can't be sure.
Yeah, it is hard to know what the bottom line is. But since he had these dreams or remembrances of an earlier time when he saw that, and then the Mothman seemed to be drawn to him because he saw it several times, and then had that event with the car hitting the baby Mothman. I would call it the baby Mothman. Which, thank God, they didn't kill.
Good.
But sounds cute, doesn't it, baby Mothman? Mm-hmm. But anyway, it just seems like he has this witness, has some strong connection here that he may not even totally understand, but he certainly has some connection.
Yeah, we talked about him, potentially being some sort of beacon, or is that area a beacon? And he didn't really have an answer either way, but there does seem to be at least something specifically with this creature that's drawn to him in some way. It's interesting.
It does seem that way, yeah. Because why him? There's something about this guy that seems to draw these things in. It's very interesting. Gosh, what a great witness that you were able to find.
Yeah, and he's a lovely individual, so I can see why something would be interested in him. So.
He's a nice guy. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we've got a caller here on the line who may have a question for you. So let me see if I can pull them in here. This is area code 804. Hi, you're live on the air. Do you have a question for Nomar tonight?
Yes, good evening. I just came across your show. I didn't hear the beginning part of it, but I've had pretty bizarre life with UFO, paranormal, and near-death experiences with ongoing paranormal. And Union Carbide, I worked at their world headquarters, and they are notoriously connected with the Mothman. I don't know if he's aware of that or not. And I did have what I feel might have been an interaction, multidimensional interaction with a gargoyle.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Ooh. Where was this?
At Union Carbide's world headquarters in Danbury, Connecticut. If I can share my name, there's a website where I just if you just put my name, it's Hugh, Hugh. The last name Charlson is spelled T like Tom, Raulsen like Nancy. After my name, if you put Synchro Mystic Encounters Off Planet Media, that's one interview I did. But I want to give you a real big website because, again, my life has been so bizarre. If you Google 3 words, my last name again, Charlson, T like Tom, Raulsen, then put the word and, A-N-D, and then Trump, Trump. I actually share common background with President Trump. I'm not into the ego like he is, but you'll see on that big website, rootingoutcorruption.weebly.com, all kinds of documents related to the bizarre life experiences I've had.
How fascinating, Hugh. That's wonderful that you've had
I'm really
experiences.
looking for researchers just to pick up on some of this stuff because a lot of it is documentable. And here again, I think like gargoyles and Mothman and stuff are all tied into UFOs and multi-dimensions and things too.
Yes, I think that's a very good point. Yes, very cool, Hugh. Now, what happened when you saw the gargoyle? Was it a similar thing
I didn't
to seeing
actually
Mothman?
see it. You can see pictures of the building. I was a contract security officer. I worked 7 nights a week patrolling the building and then doing other jobs like motor patrol. Different nights I'd have different jobs. But when I was you can put Union Carbide's world headquarters, Danbury, Connecticut, photos, and it should pull it up. It was quite an interesting building. It was all built on pillars, 4 stories high, with all kinds of pods and connected with crossovers. So I would patrol various parts of the building, and one night I was coming from one area going over to another area from my post in the center core area that had like glass ceilings, and something came crashing through the glass ceiling, and I stayed very quiet, and I heard what sounded like breathing, and it also sounded like a big wing raising and lowering, and I was tempted to investigate, but something held me back, and then I thought, too, I could get somebody to investigate with me, but then I figured, too, this is pretty wild. If I just let it be, in the morning, through feedback, I'd hear what happened. I never heard a thing, so I feel what had happened was I had gone into some kind of time shift or multi-dimension, so where it came through the glass, everything went back through the dimensions and everything was put back into place. But I do discuss in other interviews, I had a gentleman who told me somebody had been driving on the area roads up there one time at night, and something rolled onto the road from the bushes on the side of the road and stood up. It was a huge gargoyle, and that person eventually went insane after seeing it.
Oh wow. Not good.
My goodness.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh, Hugh. What an exciting life you've had. Well, we're going to go check out your website. And Nomar, I bet you will, too. This is fascinating stuff. So you
he's a researcher. That's what I'm looking for is researchers, because I'm looking also from all the negative experiences I have been through in my life. I'm looking to show people how we're all spiritual beings, and I feel we all incarnate to learn unconditional love, and as we learn it, we're supposed to be a blessing to others, and you can't take the material goods back into the spiritual realm, but I do believe we are accountable for everything we do here, so that's where I'm looking to help shift all this chaos in the world eventually, and empowering women and indigenous people at the same time, yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. You're on the same page as many of us here and also our audience, I know. So, Hugh, thank you so much for calling in tonight. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. We'll go to your website, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from us.
Yeah, I don't do email or texting. If you have my number there, you're welcome to call me if you have any questions at all. And
I'm going to write it down.
And there's other things when you just Google my name or put it on YouTube. There's all kinds of interviews and websites, and I even have a poem in the President Ronald Reagan Library that Maya Angelou commented on. If you put Hugh Tolson, Maya Angelou on YouTube.
Oh, neat.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm also a former whistleblower. There's a front page Wall Street Journal article with attachments from 1983 that I was written up in, and that triggered an investigation that eventually led to the resignation of the Speaker of the House in shame, Jim Wright. Can I just give one big synchronicity? This is sort of mind-blowing. If I can just take one more minute. There's a page.
One more minute.
All right. There's a page, media review on the website that you're going to when you Google Charleston and Trump. And there's a book jacket titled The KGB, The Eyes of Russia, written by a high-level CIA operative. And I spoke with him back in the early 80s after reading his book. It was helpful me to expose the guy I did in the Wall Street Journal article. And I lost contact with him over the years. And in 2008, something triggered me to see if Harry Rositsky was still alive. I saw he had passed. When I read his obituary, 4 synchronicities jumped right out at me. His name was Harry. My father's name was Harry. His wife's name was Barbara Helen. My mother-in-law's name was Helen. His daughter's name was Anne Elizabeth Hunt. My wife's name was Anne Elizabeth. My mother's maiden name was Hunt. Now, to find 4 synchronicities in one small obituary is pretty bizarre, but when you tie it in with high-level CIA, that's off the charts.
It really is. That's so amazing.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, Hugh. I'm sure you'll be hearing from us and maybe Nomar too, and thank you again for your call. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll just continue listening, and thank you for bringing me on.
Okay.
We
have
an
best
interesting
audience,
evening.
do we not?
Yeah. I Googled him while he was talking, and wow, there's a whole lot of stuff, so I'm going to probably be doing that for the rest of the night. That'll be fun.
Oh, gosh, yeah, and I have his phone number, so I'll be sure to send it to you.
Cool.
Yeah, so maybe he'll be in your next book. Wouldn't that be cool, huh?
That would be.
Is your wife
Is your wife
as interested in all this as you are? You said she was with you. Way back.
It was my family, but I'm not married. But significant other, though, is skeptical, to say the least. But very fascinated by it. So we were actually, this was November of last year or 2016, I forget now, but it is written about in the book. And we were sitting on our back porch, and we were talking, and it was probably 9 o'clock at night, and it was in November, and it was unusually mild, so we were pretty ecstatic to be sitting outside in November in Maine. So talking, enjoying the night, and I looked to my left, and high up in, not even super high, probably 300 yards up into the sky, I see two bright lights, one on top of each other, but at a slight angle. And I was like, well, that's weird. And she's like, what? And she couldn't really see it from where she was sitting. So she came over to where I was and saw it and was like, wow, okay, that is interesting. This might be the first time I'm seeing what you could technically call a UFO. And once we both acknowledged that we saw it, they kind of backed up a little bit and then faded out. It's very odd. Yeah.
That is odd.
As if they knew that you saw them.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it almost like waited for confirmation, like, cool, you both saw it, we're out,
Okay. Little
now
tidbit
tell
there.
us about, really, just teasing you. How about these shrinking boys? That was a very unusual story.
Yeah, very, very odd story, and that includes, missing time, a UFO, and all that stuff. So they had a day together, and they were with friends and doing summer-like things. This was back in the 70s, and while they're driving home, I believe it was around 6 p.m. or so, they're driving home, and when they're getting fairly close to home, they see a UFO, and it startled them both, and they were a bit fearful of it, and it kind of tracked the car for a little while, and they said that when it was in view, that everything, like there wasn't sound, like they were in a vacuum, like you can hear your own breathing, like, if you have a headset on, but you're not playing any music, all those things are kind of heightened, and you can hear your own breathing or chewing and things like that. And they said it was very odd. And then eventually they turned, like they rounded a curve, and the UFO was gone, so they were relieved. I was like, wow, that's crazy, we got to tell Mom. So they keep driving, and they go around another curve, and the UFO is there, hovering, almost like it was waiting for them. Yeah, and they got the sense that it was maybe waiting for them. So they like screech to a halt. They're just staring at this thing, and then it disappears. So they're like, okay, hopefully it's gone. So they continue driving home, and then they realize, they're like, the sky looks different. And they look at the clock. The clock is a similar time. And they're like, wait a minute. And it said a.m., 6 a.m. next to the time, as opposed to 6 p.m. when they were driving home. So they'd spent an entire day. It was now evening, early evening, 6 p.m. They're driving. They see this UFO. The next thing they know, the sky looks a little bit different, and it's now 6 a.m. So they thought they had just about 12 hours of missing time, and they speculated that they may have been abducted. And this really scared them. So they drove straight to the police department and explained what happened. The police didn't really know what to make of their story, but they noticed that the boys looked sickly. They were having trouble breathing. They explained to the police like it kind of burned when they were breathing, and their eyes, the whites of their eyes, the sclera, looked yellow. So the police took them to the hospital. So they're getting checked out from the hospital and everything, and the nurses or the doctors are worried that they might have like jaundice or something, that turns the eyes yellow. So once they did some preliminary tests, they didn't have any other symptoms of jaundice. So they're like, okay, you don't have jaundice, but something odd has clearly happened to you. And they were telling the story, and of course nobody was really believing them. So now it's time for them to get weighed and measured and all that stuff. It's just what they do at the beginning of examinations. And when they measured one of the boys, he was measured as 5'10". And he goes, that, like, he freaked out. He's like, no, I'm almost 6 foot. I'm like 5'11 and a half. Like, this is ridiculous. Check my high school records. I'm definitely like 5'11 and a half. I'm almost 6 foot. Like, how can somebody shrink just over the course of one day? Like, that makes no sense. And the nurses and the doctor, they didn't know what to make of it. They could only go by his word. They did not check his records. But it turns out that the boys were relatively healthy. The color in their eyes started coming back a little bit. The breathing, the burning breathing sensation did go away while they were at the hospital. So they sent them home. So the boys drove home, and their mother was freaking out. She's like, why didn't you call? The police had to call me, blah, blah, blah. And so she was freaking out at them. The police didn't tell them anything other than the boys are at the hospital, but they're fine, So while the mother is, like, screaming at them, she can see that their eyes look a little bit different, and she can visibly notice that they're a little bit shorter than they were.
That's so bizarre. God.
Yeah, what happened to you? Blah, blah, blah. So they explained the story to Mom, and, so it's kind of a story within their family now. But the boys also talked about having numerous experiences throughout their lifetime, so it seems like they're these repeater experiencers, and that's certainly one of their most odd tales of, crazy missing time. Like, that's besides Travis Walton, like, that's a huge bout of missing time, 12 hours.
It's enormous, yes. And the fact that they shrunk over an inch.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you shrink?
Incredible.
What happens to make you shrink?
And does is that indicative of, this, for the skeptic, this can take a lot of steps to get there, but is it some sort of the interstellar travel that they were potentially on? Was that doing it to them? But again, that takes a lot of hoops to get there. Do you believe in UFOs? Okay, if you do believe in that, does that mean they're alien? Do you believe in aliens? Okay, does that mean they travel the galaxy, wormhole technology? Who the hell knows? Do you believe that? Okay, now you get to interstellar travel. Okay, could G-force be play a part on that or something,
Exactly. Yes, could it? And it may.
The eye
who knows?
discoloration. That's
what's
right about the eye discoloration.
That's so weird.
Yeah, very, very odd. And,
so,
is that
it sounds like they were exposed to some other atmosphere, because they were having trouble breathing. You said, and their lungs burned.
It hurt
Yeah. So that
what
kind of speaks to that.
It
right.
does.
I mean, they must have been breathing something in other than our atmosphere. So, and something that affected
them. Makes you wonder
them
if they were abducted.
Oh, for sure. I don't even think that's the question. They were abducted. It's just who took them and where? Was it?
Yeah.
As you're saying, was it interdimensional? Was it extra? Was it off-world into other planets? You know what it reminds me of, PK? This reminds me of Sisto. Remember? When we had Nazcar, this shaman on, he talked about this man in Peru, Sisto, who was a good friend of his, and this man was abducted right in front of everybody. And remember, he came back, I think it was 2 days later, and he looked like, holy hell, his eyes were all wild, his hair was just going off in all directions. Remember that description that Don Oscar gave? It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But you could hear the same kind of thing of this exposure to off-world elements, a different atmosphere, a different gravity system, different life forms, and how it had a major effect on Sisto. So I imagine these two boys. It just sounds like they were taken somewhere else where things were quite different. God, great story that you found, Nomar. That's a great one.
Thank you.
Excellent.
The book itself is fascinating with all the stories that you have in it, and it's wonderful. A comfortable read because it's so you're not pushed in any direction. Your mind keeps going with everything that's taking place.
Well,
very well done.
I appreciate that, and I do preface like the whole book because you got the shrinking boy story, you got this Mothman-like creature. So I preface the whole book in the introduction to, being open to other people's perceptions of things. And just because something is hard to believe, it doesn't mean you should inherently dismiss it. Be open-minded. Don't be judgmental, because once we're closed-minded and judgmental, then people stop telling us these stories,
And that's a shame.
Yeah, people are afraid to be made fun of or to be ostracized because of what they see or feel. And
absolutely.
we have to remember these things are real.
Yes, they are.
And something is happening, and the only way we're going to put the pieces of the puzzle together is if people keep sharing.
Well, you're right. I mean, it's about time, and I think through shows like ours, and there's so many other shows out there that are good at making this be what it is, which is it's part of our world. You can't separate it out anymore, thank God. And they have all of the media that is finally starting to talk about it piece by piece, which is helpful, and so that's good. But you also have a very interesting and strange story about, is it Shalel is the name that you, I don't know if that's a real name or what in the world is going on with that? That is a bizarre story with so many different tentacles to it. Tell us about that. I know our audience is going to love this one.
Yeah, this is pretty intricate and it's complex, so I'll try to make it as concise as possible because I think it's one of the longest chapters in the book. But it all starts with a guy named John Walker, and he was in the Navy. He joined in 1955, and in 1968, after having started a family and he owned a restaurant, he began selling U.S. intelligence secrets to Russia. So the simple fact is that he needed money, and this went on for over 15 years. And eventually his wife was sick of his behavior, and he was sick of him getting his family involved. He got his children involved. He got a brother-in-law involved, and she eventually called the FBI on him. And in 1985, he was arrested and charged and jailed for espionage. And this was a big story. It was picked up all over the world. Books were written about it. It was big stuff. So his wife, her name's Barbara, she put up with his behavior for a long time. And what finally made her call the FBI, she says it was at the recommendation of a woman named Shalel Way. And she's a psychic from Skowhegan, Maine. So in 1976, Barbara divorced John Walker, and she decided to go back home, to move back home. Turns out that was Skowhegan, Maine. She befriended the Way family, and she spoke to Shalel on a few occasions. And eventually she asked Shalel to give her a reading. And Barbara explained to Shalel her whole husband's situation, the espionage and all that stuff. When Shalel did her reading, she recommended that Barbara turn in her husband. She quite literally gave and credited Shalel for this decision, and then newspapers all over the world interviewed Shalel about the reading and about the whole situation, and she became a bit of a celebrity psychic for that time. So
amazing.
So I began digging into Shalel a little bit, and I found that at first she was interviewed by another author quite a while ago, and she claimed to have been made aware of her psychic powers by extraterrestrials. Boom, red flag, hooked now, right?
Yeah.
So she would speak to them. She said she would speak to them once in a while, and they told her that she was needed for something bigger later on. So I contacted Shalel in 2016, and she invited me to her home, and we talked about the John Walker case, and we talked about the extraterrestrials, and she's a lovely woman, a tad eccentric, but, you know, that never hurt anybody. And she openly discussed the Walker case, but she didn't tell me anything more than what had already been written about. I mean, it was so covered in the media that there was really nothing more for her to share about it. And bear with me here. Sorry, the phone just.
Yeah, that's okay.
Wow. All right. Maybe we're getting gremlins on this side now.
Oh no.
My phone just lit up and then went dark.
Send them to you.
You're safe. I'm surprised.
So, anyways, we discussed the John Walker case. There wasn't really much to learn from it. So we started talking more about the extraterrestrials. And she told me about these childhood encounters, and she shared those encounters with her family at the time, and it made her family a bit worried about her, like, is there something mentally wrong with my daughter? So they took her to a doctor to get her checked out, and the doctor gave her a clean bill of health. So then her mother brought her to a priest just to make sure that she was okay. And the priest found Shalel to be perfectly normal. The priest told the mother this. So then after that, the family fully supported Shalell and her abilities. I thought that was pretty cool. You don't hear about that too often.
Especially the police would shut it down.
Yeah. So Shalell goes on to tell me about an encounter that happened with extraterrestrials in 1998. And she said that at the time she had a diagnosed tumor in her adrenal gland. And she was very nervous about it being operated on. And she decided to meditate on it one night. And she tried speaking with her extraterrestrials. She said weeks later, an ice storm hit Maine. It's a famous story of the ice storm of 98 in Maine. So people were without power for like 3 weeks. And if you're without heat in Maine for a day,
oh, my God.
Horrible.
That's
so
horrible.
Generators are going, their shelters set up. It was horrible. But she said that she woke up the morning after the ice storm hit with her neighbor knocking at her door. And as soon as Shalell answered the door, the neighbor said, "Do you believe in UFOs?" And Shalell was like, "What the hell?" She never discussed UFOs or extraterrestrials with her neighbor. So the neighbor said, "Well, you got to come with me." So the neighbor takes her outside, and she shows Shalell an area of the roof of their shared apartment building that had a perfect circle melted into the area where the ice had been. So Shalell kind of like played it off and was like, "Yeah, that's really weird, whatever," and went back inside. But once she went back inside, she noticed how good she felt. And she immediately thought about her meditation a couple of weeks earlier and claimed that her tumor had vanished. And she said that the extraterrestrials that night caused the ice storm of 98 to conceal them coming to her home to heal her tumor. And then after visiting with doctors, she claimed she didn't need to have the surgery anymore.
And didn't she have a cat that also had leukemia or something that was also healed?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she said the cat that same morning was acting like a kitten and never act that way and lived for several more years after that. And leukemia for a cat is a death sentence, so. It
is.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. What a great story. But it goes on from there.
It goes on. So in 2009 comes like the story. This is like the purpose, she explained to me, that the extraterrestrials began visiting her. And they told her about this, years ago, saying that you're going to be needed for this thing in the future. So she said that they visited her again in 2009, and she was to help the world. That's really all they told her. And she found that they gave her messages, and then she would need to do her readings with her tarot cards to try to figure out the meaning of what they were saying, because they couldn't outright tell her, is the way she explained it to me. So she did her reading, she did her meditation, and through the use of her tarot deck, she was able to find something really big. And she said that she figured out that the president of Iran at the time in 2009 wanted to nuke Israel, and that he wanted to do this before the elections took place because he didn't think he could win, and he wanted to leave a lasting legacy, which, of course, that would be a horrible, horrible tragedy, but it would leave him quite the legacy. So after Shalell figured this out, she wasn't sure what to do with the information, so she reached out to a lot of her friends, and there was one man that she identified as a, quote, Marine veteran that wanted to help. And they got together and they devised a plan to thwart this nuclear attack. So they decided that they would threaten the president's sons with military snipers, that they would kill him if he nuked Israel. And they said that they wouldn't actually set this up, but they wanted the president to believe that this was going to happen. And so if he did believe it, then maybe they could negotiate him that the sons would live and you don't drop a nuke. So Shalell said that she had an Israeli friend, and he came from a wealthy family that had, quote, connections to the president, and that he could get word to the president. So the time of the election, I know, this is crazy. So the time of the elections came and went. No nuke was set off. And Shalell and her friends are convinced that her involvement thwarted that attack. Now, like I was saying, this is a long chapter, so there are a few details that, I'm trying to make this concise, but
they're going to have to buy your book and read it. I mean, that's all there is to it.
That's exactly it.
But and again, it goes back to the beginning of the book where, this is somebody's perception. This is what somebody thinks happened, and the only thing that I can tell you, regardless of belief of this story, is that when she was telling me this story, I was sitting 5 feet from her. I was looking into her eyes, and I've never seen someone be more sincere, So at the very least, I believe that she believes it. And who am I to judge her or to say, no, that's not true because it's so wild of a story,
who are any of us to judge it? It's this great story. Yeah, and clearly you had a one-on-one with Shalal, and you found her to be credible. So why couldn't it happen? I'm sure there's stranger things that have happened in the spy world, and so she had something and a connection with extraterrestrials for good, to prevent a terrible catastrophe of wiping entire country off the face of the earth. How horrible that would be.
Yeah, and it's nice to hear something positive. There's so many malevolent stories about extraterrestrials, and it was nice that her whole experience since childhood has been very positive.
It's terrific, and it's heartwarming actually to hear this kind of an experience. It's great, and I'm glad you have that in your book. Is one of the terrific stories that you tell. It's just amazing. You have so many stories. I mean, I don't know. When I picked up the book at first, I thought, well, how many more stories could there be that we haven't heard of? Because PK and I have had, through the years, so many people. But there were a lot of stories in here we had not heard before. So good job, Nomar. Gosh, these are all great. Highly recommend. Again, the name of the book is Otherworldly Encounters, Evidence of UFO Sightings and Abductions, but it's so much more than that, as you have found if you've been listening.
It's a wonderful
tonight.
Read. It's very comfortable to read.
Yes, it's excellent.
Thank you very much. And
now, what if somebody wants to get a hold of you? And like Hugh, who called in, now he doesn't do email, but I secretly wrote down his number for you. But how would people get a hold of you, Nomar? What's the best way if they have a story to tell, maybe to be included in your next book? How would they reach you?
The easiest way to reach me, in my opinion, is facebook.com/Nomar Slevik author. And you can like the page, that would be fine, but you don't have to like the page to send me a message. So if you want to connect with me, go on Facebook, do a search for Nomar Slevik author. I'm easy to find. Send me a message, and I respond to every message I get. So just hit me up, and you can just say hi or screw you or share a story, whatever,
Oh, that's funny. Now, that's great. So people now can find you and tell you their stories. Now, you also have a few Bigfoot in here. Tell us about that.
You're cracking up, Patricia. I couldn't hear you.
What about Bigfoot in Maine? Tell us about Bigfoot.
There's so many stories of Bigfoot in Maine, and I actually came across quite a few of them, some contemporary ones as well. But like I mentioned before, Michelle Solier and Lauren Coleman were working on a book together about Bigfoot in Maine, and Michelle has actually taken over the bulk of that work. So anything I came across, I just forwarded to her. I didn't contact the witness. I didn't follow up. I, read the account briefly, and I would just send it off to her. But yeah, there's been numerous accounts of Bigfoot in Maine. There's one actually in the video section of the book. There's a chapter dedicated to like viral videos of UFOs in Maine, and I'm really glad you posted that Buxton one. That's a crazy video on your Facebook page. But there's another video where it's, there's no UFO or anything, but it's a witness telling a story where they're out in the woods and they're conducting some sort of survey work or something. I forget now. And it's late at night, and they're actually going to camp out in the woods. And while they're camping out, they're kind of in this little valley, and they're sky watching, and they observe a UFO. I mean, it's really just a light in the sky, but they see it kind of stop and go another direction, kind of like the classic, star-sized UFO type sighting. And then later on that night, rocks started being thrown at them, and they would look up at the ridge, and they could swear that they saw something quite large up there, and they tend to know that area has had Bigfoot encounters in it, so they were wondering if maybe they had a concurrent sighting of a UFO and a Sasquatch. Pretty interesting to think about.
That is, and the rock throwing is something Bigfoot is known for. Is
Absolutely.
Not to hit people, but to just get your attention kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
and I would think in Maine there's a lot of, you have just so much forest up there.
It's
a perfect area.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stories, and I've read a few of them, and I actually can't wait for this book to come out because I want to read about all the Bigfoot encounters in Maine.
Definitely. What about, have you heard of anything else in Maine that you could mention as, the last few minutes of the show? Any other strange creatures?
There's, again, Dogman. There's also been Men in Black encounters. There was a few crop circles have been found in Maine, and I wrote about some of those encounters. And one of them involved a woman who saw some, balls of light, before, she was just what is that? Looking out her window, her dog was barking at the time, so it woke her up in the middle of the night. The dog is sitting at her sliding glass window, which faces the field that had the crop circle, and he's barking, and she's like, what the hell are you doing? So she looks out there, and she sees, some odd lights over the field, but to her, it's, could have been flashlights, could have been hunters, who knows? So the scuttlebutt in the morning when she woke up amongst the neighbors, because a lot of people live near this field, was that there was a crop circle that developed overnight, and you don't hear much about crop circles being developed in the United States. Of course, it's happened, but rarely do you hear from them from Maine. And there's a crop circle researcher group. I believe it's BLT Research. I believe that's the name. And they're out of Massachusetts, I believe, and they go around the country investigating this stuff. So I got their take on it, and of course it could be anything, but it turns out that one specifically with the ball lightning, they did not go and investigate. So they didn't take any samples from there or anything. So no ultimate conclusion from it.
Right, but she did see the lights circling in the field. Her dog was acting strangely.
Right.
So these are these are definite indications that there was something paranormal going on.
Absolutely. And I do that a lot in the book. I give you the puzzle pieces. I even put the puzzle together for you, and then it's up to you to look at it and decide, okay, was that a crop circle, or was it hunters in the field and they stayed there all night and they made the circle just by walking in circles? Who knows? You know what I mean? But I put it out there, and it's up for you to decide,
Yeah,
very interesting.
Quite honestly, it's very interesting, and it makes sense. It actually makes more sense to me. This done in a paranormal way, it actually makes less sense to think that there were hunters doing this, right?
Oh yeah, I agree.
To me, I would laugh at. I would definitely seriously consider that this is some type of an interdimensional or extraterrestrial event.
Sure.
So then, flashlight. So people's minds to this, and that's the purpose of our show. Also, this is where paranormal is normal, and it's about that we're able to include all of this in our natural world. This is, even though we call it supernatural, it's truly part of our natural world.
You break it up,
for
Patricia.
some reason. Yeah. How about now?
Better.
Can
you
hear me now?
Thanks.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't know why this is happening, but it's gremlins. I'm going to say it's gremlins.
Hey, it's retrograde. What do you expect?
I know. Oh, boy. How many more weeks to this? But anyway, so it's so good that your book is out, no more, and people listening to shows like ours where we can talk in the way that we feel that it should be talked about, that this is a part of our natural world. There's nothing so bizarre that it cannot be talked about. We need to be open-minded, and certainly it really helps. It helps everybody to come forward if they've had an experience like this and to find a way to integrate it. That's the hardest thing with these events. It's very hard to integrate it. There's so much unknown. So much that's been covered up by our very own government and people in the know, people that really know what's going on with Bigfoot, that we know that they're out there, that's in the government or the shadow government. They understand these things and they know what's happening, and they don't really want to share it. It's not fair.
Nope.
They're
not nice.
All right. We play nice. We're sharing it. No, we can't thank you enough for such a wonderful, wonderful experience having you on the show. I love this.
Thank you so
It
much.
was a delight.
Yeah, I had fun too. And do you mind if I mention a couple other things I got going on? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
No, by all means.
We're running out of time. We've got like 30 seconds.
Okay, real quick. So I also have a podcast. It's me and my buddy. We're a couple of idiots, but it's all on the paranormal. It's called I Want to Believe is the name of the podcast. You can find it wherever podcasts are available. That's iTunes, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. And what's different about it, though, is that we record all the episodes first. I edit everything, and then we release it as seasons, Netflix style. So season 1 is out now, and you can listen to it. I Want to Believe, the podcast. And I also wrote and produced a documentary called Abducted New England, and it's directed by my homie Bill Brock, and it's going to be available at the end of the month, exclusively digitally on VidiSpace, V-I-D-I space, and that's Nick Groff from Ghost Adventures and Paranormal Lockdown, and Elizabeth Saint. They started a network called VidiSpace. And vidispace.com, and it'll be available there to watch. We'll also have DVDs on Amazon, and I'm giving a presentation August 31st at the KRI Center in Stratham, New Hampshire, and that's going to be our first screening of it, and we're very excited about it. So just wanted to mention
Hey, congratulations. That sounds
wonderful.
exciting. If you can send us a DVD, we'd love to see it. So,
Definitely.
everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been a great show. We will be back next week with Quantum Consciousness all the way from Australia. And until then, guess what? We'll see you on the Blue Highway. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with Supernatural Girls.
Hey, guys.